Welcome everybody, Bits and Bobs is coming at you. Will Slattery here in studio. Hi Will.
Hey Joe.
And we've drafted in Aidan O'Hara, our Deputy Head of Sport.
Hey Joe.
I was going to make the Deputy 2 joke again. Did I get old?
Probably, yeah.
Or become more lovable each time.
And I feel like you threw me under the bus and said
Absolutely.
it was I said it.
You did say it last time.
And I said don't say it to him.
Don't think of a yellow elephant. I mean, come on. There's so much going on. We're a little bit kind of flush because as we record this, and I know when you listen to it, it'll all be, well, like, that's old news now. But they've just made the GAA draw. The snooker at the Crucible, Mark Williams versus John Higgins, has just been extraordinary. So it was a certain kind of giddiness, maybe. Nice weather.
Great draw weather.
Yeah.
Like great weather to sit back and watch the round robin draw.
Yeah. You two both in black t-shirts for the nice sunny weather. Is that the thinking?
The uniform,
Because I walked in and I thought this won't show any sweat stains. That was my thinking.
Was it really?
It was, yeah. I understood that I looked, because I'm wearing black jeans as well. At least Aidan is wearing blue jeans. I looked a little odd.
Like a pair of bouncers.
Yeah. I've been liking the Danny Zuko to Ricky Gervais, like a lot of different comparisons going around. But it was because I didn't want to look sweaty when I walked in.
Ah, interesting. Aidan?
I just grabbed the first t-shirt that I saw.
Yeah,
and
that's my world.
That works for me. That'll do.
I this morning I got up, I ironed a t-shirt, I was looking sharp, and then I went to make an omelette and I cut into a tomato. Outfit change. 2-year-old running everywhere. Like, it's a disaster. So
You giving out to the 2-year-old for being messy?
yeah. Couple of emails. Oh yeah, I actually did canvas for types like this. I thought myself and Michael Verney and Conor McKeown were possibly a little bit forgiving of Darren McCarthy and his red card. And so, to be fair, Michael from Dublin, who describes himself as a soft cornerback with a chip on his shoulder, says, "Lads, love the show, etc. I only usually get in touch about hurling. I am flabbergasted by the chat around this red card. I'm playing all my life. I cannot stand that stupid shit before the ball's thrown in. Looks thuggish, and when it gets to the stage it got to in Cork, it is the clearest red card ever. Use your shoulder. Don't be a coward using the hurl to intentionally hurt someone. As a back myself, this happens a lot, so I'm speaking from a certain perspective maybe. Secondly, cannot believe Dublin and their Leinstertainment only got a few minutes at the end of Monday's pod, and mostly about the goal, no goal. If that was a Munster game, it would have had its own podcast," says Michael. Fair points on the not giving Leinster enough. There's too much on. Like, we can't do like 8 1-hour podcasts on a Monday. So were we a bit soft on Darren McCarthy?
Yeah, because hurling is one of those sports where, like, the less the rules are enforced, the more people are like, that's great refereeing. So that seemed to be what you were advocating, that, like, it was a striking motion. Like, if another sport, someone did something of a similar vein, it would be a red card and no one would question it.
Yeah.
Like, if someone elbowed someone off the ball in soccer, red card. Rugby, if there was a similar incident, probably be a red card.
I know, it's hurling though.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying though. There's an accepted kind of culture around that. They're like, oh, geez, it's hurling. Like, it's the blood's up at Munster Championship.
I just feel there should be a big memo saying we're completely changing the culture of the sport from Saturday. Just a fair warning.
Or pre-whistle.
Yeah. And his tears in the stands sort of got me as well. I just thought, and then, the spectacle, you ruined the spectacle.
Ruin the game, yeah. There's always an element of blaming the referee for applying the rules, particularly in hurling. I mean, like, you hear things about in GAA all the time about the free count, as though it should always be equal. You know, it is possible for one team to foul more than another team in a match.
That's
and
true.
Yet you hear managers all the time giving out about the free count, as though there was same amount of fouls and same amount of frees. But look, I think don't hit someone with the hurl is a fairly basic place to start in any hurling match.
Well, that's okay, fair. Lads, really enjoying the podcasts every day. This is from Sean in Donegal. With Cork footballers putting it up to Kerry last week, the hurlers flying, it got me thinking, surely Cork is the best county for sport in Ireland by a considerable distance. Often counties excel at 2, maybe 3 sports at most, but they are true all-rounders. Football, hurling, soccer, rugby, horse racing, rowing. And this comes from a Donegal man.
There's no way he's from Donegal. He is definitely from Cork.
Like, yeah, maybe, but let's not start saying it. Let's not encourage them.
It is Dublin, obviously.
Is it?
Like, 3 golf majors with Padraig Harrington. Greatest rugby player of all time. Irish rugby player, Brian O'Driscoll. Greatest soccer player, maybe Johnny Jaws, Liam Brady. Take your pick there.
Paul McGrath.
It's very individual based. Your football, your hurling team, your football team. You know, I think it's probably Cork. Dublin, by dint of population, will have more individuals.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't like saying it because they think it already. We touched on Andy Farrell's autobiography, which is out in October. And Donna just sent in a message because I hadn't heard this said before. This had passed me by. Just listening to your discussion on Friday, I would say one of the best I have ever read, books-wise, was Anthony Daly's. Dalo. Covers his early life, hurling career, player and manager, interest in greyhounds, family, different businesses he was involved in. Real content in it. No pussyfooting around. Honest. A few years since I read it, so can't give specifics, but I know it's the first one I think of when sports books are discussed. Anyone?
Haven't read Daly's one.
No, no, right. Agassi is always the first one I would think of.
Yeah,
That was good.
Yeah. So, lots of things happening. The snooker. We were in with Ken Doherty at the outset, and you were teeing up the World Championships for us. So a couple of things. The class of 92, once again to the fore. We've just watched John Higgins, Mark Williams, and it finished 13-12 to Mark Williams. Drama all the way. Higgins had been down 12-8 and looked done, but he has a habit of coming back.
Yeah.
And so Mark Williams, just in the last hour, came through. Will ran to watch it. I was watching it on BBC live text. So that, that had the classic... You're rewarded for giving up your sunny afternoon and staying in and watch snooker.
Absolutely. Yes, and sunny morning and sunny afternoon, as it turned out. It was 8 all going into the session this morning, which is like it's 10 o'clock in the morning in Sheffield. It's an interesting part of the world in terms. There's very few sporting events will start at 10 o'clock in the morning, and go on that mean an awful lot to the people involved with so many titles, etc. between them. Williams was 12-8 up. Higgins went, I think I just wrote it down, 76, 94, 119, 104 to get back to 12 all, and then had a chance. They both had chances in the final frame. Higgins needed the blue to win, jawed it, left Williams on, potted the 3 balls and won 13-12 on the black, which, like, given the history between the two, there were standing ovations 2 or 3 times across the sessions. It was a phenomenal match. And
appreciating 2 great snooker men kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you don't know when they're going to... Like, you don't know when... They may never play again in the Crucible. People go there and, you're watching on TV, hours you spent watching players like them.
Yeah.
Like, I think Williams is 50, Higgins is 49. The desire for both of them to keep going is incredible.
And people develop deep relationships with them over decades, which is part of it. So standing ovation, it doesn't. You do something great, everyone's on their feet.
Well, they did standing ovation before the final frame, which I guess is sort of in tuxedos, sort of.
That's amazing.
It's touch gloves before the final round kind of stuff. Like that is what it is.
That's nice. And did they give a little nod of appreciation?
Yeah, they did. Like, it was, but I'd say Williams is just in a dark room somewhere in relief, and Higgins is the same, probably in despair, because they're very, very hard to come back from. Obviously, the older you get, Williams into a semi-final now, Higgins may not get close again. But it was a phenomenal match, phenomenal drama, and
standard still very high.
Their standard is excellent. Yeah, it's like, it's difficult to know. I mean, Ronnie's had a situation where the draws kind of opened up for him really to get to a semi-final or a final without really playing very well, but against guys who haven't punished him, whereas the other side of the draw had Higgins, Williams, Purcell, Trump, Murphy, lads very, very in good form. That side of the draw are going to have to batter their way to a final, and could probably find the relatively fresh Ronnie O'Sullivan there waiting for them.
Well, I wanted to ask you about Ronnie. So would he, won't he was the story at the outset of the tournament, and he did. He beat Judd Rump 18-13. Monday he beat Pang Zhongzhu 13-4. After that win, he was asked how well he had played. He said 2 out of 10. He's like, I've dragged my opponents down to my level. I think they expected me to play better, and they were shocked that I didn't. And then he said of his current opponent, Si Ji Hui, I don't think C will fall into that trap. That's what makes him dangerous. Ronnie 6-2 up.
Yeah,
I mean, I was in the office earlier with Conor McKeown, and we just looked up at the screen, and Ronnie was playing, and he was potting left-handed, right-handed, building a break, and then saying, I'm a disaster, I'm playing terribly.
The first 4 frames of that, he was 3-1 up, and against anyone with any decent form, he'd been 4-0 down.
Okay.
He really was playing. Like, you always take what he says with a pinch of salt. Absolutely.
John Parrott said, "Stop, just do not listen to anything he's saying." But to your eye, he's not actually playing that well.
No, I mean, he missed. He was taking. Generally speaking, what you'd look at would be: do you take the chance to win the frame in one visit or maximum of 2? That was what we were looking at in Murphy and Trump in Brussels against Ding Junhui, where a guy would miss a chance, the other guy would come in, clean up, frame over. That's when you're looking at really seriously high standards. In Ronnie's case, in those some of the matches I've watched, it's taken him 2, 3, 4 chances to win a frame, which wouldn't be like normally. He would just go in and go bang, and that'd be the end of it when he's at his. And I'd say that's as it would be. That's the standard he sets for himself. He does know where his standard should be. It's probably not there yet, but he's very, very, very good chance of getting to a final. And who knows from there. But again, you do absolutely take what he says with a pinch of salt. But there is a fair element of truth to what he's saying in this instance.
Okay. Pretty good World Championship so far?
Yeah, I've enjoyed it, but you're sort of talking to someone who'd watch it all the time. So I've there's been some very good games. Williams and Higgins is one of those games that if it was on a Friday night or a Saturday night, everyone would find themselves drawn towards the TV to watch it. Unfortunately, with the way the schedule can be, sometimes it's on at 12:30 on a sunny Wednesday afternoon.
It's an energy when you find out a big snooker match in the final frame. You just have to get to a TV. That's why I had to sprint around the corner of the office. I won't get into the politics of why we still don't have a TV in the audio department. By the way, we leave that for another day. But can I ask Aidan one snooker question, Joe? I don't know if you're about to move on.
No, go for it.
Obviously Williams, Higgins. You mentioned the standing ovations, just the kind of the relationship the crowd has with those guys. And Ronnie O'Sullivan, the class of '92, and Judd Trump, obviously very prominent player too. There was more Chinese players in the last 16 than any other country this year, and I am intrigued in the medium term, short to medium term, because those guys you think maybe in 5 years might not be as prominent. If there is kind of a Chinese-dominated field, what the crowd, how they respond to those players versus how they feel about these guys who've been in their lives for 30 years, I think it'll be quite different.
It would be. I mean, it's similar enough in terms of golf, where the PGA Tour, we used to watch it on a Sunday night, and you'd see these guys who you knew. You'd see Rory going against Rahm, going against whatever, and then someone like Corey Connors or Tringale, is that his name? These guys who are obviously extremely good players, but you don't know them. And so I do think that general level of interest would probably drop a little bit once those class of '92 go. You'll still have Selby, Trump, Wilson, those guys. Like it's a natural enough thing that the game is sort of in around Britain and Ireland. The big tournaments are all in Britain and Ireland. So if they were coming from there's a ridiculous number of academies, etc. in China, and they've really kind of invested in it over there. I do think it'll probably hurt the level of interest in a general sense. If it was Chinese players, if it was a load of Belgian players, if it was a load of French players, if they just weren't the British players, because that's what people have grown up watching, what they have a relationship with. They've followed these guys around. It's a natural thing.
It's this market, but I guarantee in China you'll have record viewing figures. So would you rather take a big slice of 1 billion people? Snooker's probably happy. Slightly. Barry Hearn's probably rubbing his hands.
Happy. Absolutely.
Go to Saudi, we'll own China. We'll be doing fine.
Yep.
So yeah. That's where we are. We'll see how it goes over the next. It's always the bank holiday Monday finish, isn't
it?
Yes.
That's right.
Sport just gives your life a rhythm, which is beautiful. The Monday bank holiday, the build up all weekend to it, tapered by school tomorrow.
Yes,
that was it. GAA draw has been made, so 16 will be reduced to 12. It's so bad. If this was next year's structure, we are just licking our lips here, but we've got this pig of a structure for one more year. I don't know if reading out the entire draw is going to do anyone any favours. You'll see it for yourself. I guess Will spent the entire draw was like, what is the group of death? The group of death is group 4. So the winners of Galway Mayo, which is this weekend, the losers of Armagh Donegal, flick a coin there, I think, isn't it?
Armagh in good form now. Yeah, Donegal are slight favourites, but it's definitely tightened over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, so there's no loser there, unlike if you get a Clare or if you get Louth or Meath, with the greatest respect to them. It's different to Armagh or Donegal. So winners of Galway Mayo, let's say Galway for a second. Let's stick in Armagh's, the losers, just to annoy Ronan. So you've Galway, Armagh, Dublin, and Derry. So again, if that was the best two, we're rocking. Best three, given the form of Derry, it's probably going to be okay-ish. But that's as close to a group of death as we have.
Yeah. And the only, I suppose, one wrinkle of it, again, people are asking for Connacht, would you rather lose and be in Group 1 or win and be in Group 2?
Yeah.
You have Tyrone and Cavan in Group 1 with the other Ulster finalist versus Dublin and Derry instead of Tyrone and Cavan. So again, I think there was a similar situation last year where, was it the Ulster champions, I think, would have been technically better off losing maybe, to get a perceived easier draw.
I did see a headline, Sean Bugler, who was doing media yesterday, Dublin will relish knocking big teams off their horse. Like, what's happened here? They're talking like a Kildare here. We'll have a crack at the big lads. The other thing is that Jarlath Burns has said the All-Ireland finals won't move next year into August. Tom Ryan had written his annual report earlier this year and suggested August finals might happen. We might just bump it on a week or 2 or 3. But Jarlath Burns said it's going to be the next president who'll make that decision, so we're stuck with the late July final. You like to push it on?
Absolutely. I mean, you used the phrase a few minutes ago, sport gives your life a rhythm. And like if you're into it, everyone knew growing up, first Sunday in September, third Sunday in September. If you go to your local GAA club, people who are obviously into their GAA, and ask them when the All-Ireland final is, I'd say most people don't know.
I'm like,
it's around the end of July, or it's around. And the only reason I would know that is because I tend to take holidays there, and I've watched a couple of the last All-Irelands in the first week of August or around that mark. I'm not sure, but it's part of this kind of crazy scheduling of it, where the product. I mean, there's been 3 great football games with Cork, Kerry, Armagh, Tyrone, and Dublin Meath, and there's a handful of people who've seen them. If you were at the game, you saw it. Other than that, your chances of seeing them are fairly slim because they're all hidden away behind GAA Plus. And this isn't a go at RTE or anything like that, because they have to select what they can select. But the idea of putting your product in a place where so few people can see it, I just think doesn't help at all.
I can see in advance, though, in fairness to them, why Cork, Kerry and Dublin Meath, especially
You're putting Dublin Meath on RTE, people would have been going ballistic. They would have been like, why is this Turkey on national TV? Like, and obviously
they would have in advance.
But it's having the space to be able to, like, if it wasn't condensed. I mean, like, I was working last Sunday, and you're looking at saying there's enough talking points here with the 2:00 games before the 4:00 games. There's enough talking points out of Saturday night. There's huge talking points that generate levels of interest in games. That, like, if Meath and Meath and Offaly was there, it was like in the last round. I know you can't show every game, but there's a part of the reason why you can't show every game is because everything is so condensed. Like Saturday week, there's the Ulster final, there's a Munster Championship match, and there's 3 Leinster Championship matches, all on the same day within the same kind of 4-hour period. Like, for the overall product, I can't understand it. I don't get it.
Yeah. No, it's hard to argue with that. I suppose for a lot of people, the joy of this part of the year is going to watch their county play. Mm-hmm. And you plug into that in a big way, and you immerse yourself in that, and then you catch what you can across a weekend, and you still really enjoy your summer. Maybe we're thinking about it from a media point of view and how we would perfectly spread out the talking points.
Well, that's you talking earlier on, that the email earlier on talking about the Dublin Wexford game.
Yeah,
and that's the reality of how little space that.
But it's funny to go back to what the old schedule was. It was like one weekend, one hurling semi-final. The next weekend, the second hurling semi-final. The weekend after that, one football semi-final. It was so spread out. It was 4 weeks between games. That wasn't ideal either. I remember at the time just thinking, God, can we just put a bit more rhythm into the championship summer? And obviously, because of the, trying to get the club split season, they kind of condensed it all the way back. So there is, I think people think August is probably maybe a happy medium.
That's why I thought the August thing would just work. And like, Jarlath has been fairly progressive and busy in every other aspect. I wouldn't have thought this one, given Tom Ryan had said August sounds about right. Most people think August sounds about right, and it wouldn't unduly affect the club player.
They also have a league structure as well, where you had a genuine conversation of what's meant to be the second most important competition of a team not wanting to get into the final because it was better for them because the championship was on the following week.
Yeah.
So that's another part to look at, where you could actually start. You could reduce the league, stop having a league final or whatever it might be. Stop pre-season, but that might be the place to start, where you can you can
Buy a bit
stretch
of
it
time,
out by
yeah.
a bit of time, a couple of weeks at the start, rather than trying to look to go further into the summer.
We won't ruin a sunny day by talking championship structures anymore. One of the other upsides, though, is I'm almost having to retrain my brain when I'm saying, oh, these group stages, 16 teams reduced to 12, a pig of a format. I suppose the point, though, is the football matches are much better now. Whereas for the last couple of years, the only thing that made a match worth watching was the jeopardy. Somebody's going to go out today. Okay, I'll watch it. As you know, it wouldn't even occur to you to think, I'll watch this because it'll just be enjoyable and a bit chaotic and anything could happen.
That's
Whereas
interesting.
now I think actually the football might actually be good enough to just be fun to watch. That, you know, Donegal Galway is probably just worth watching because it's Donegal Galway because the football is better. Whereas previous years, no jeopardy, no points. So that is I think I'm going to get onto my dad and go to a few of these games for the first time in several years.
That's actually a good point. I hadn't considered that because I was still looking at it being like, yeah, the group of death will be good insofar.
He's big on the group of death thing.
Loves the group of death.
Who coined that actually? When was the first usage of the group of death? If anyone knows, email in.
In GAA or in sport?
Sport.
I feel there must be a...
My first memory of it was 2002. England, Argentina, Sweden, and Nigeria was coined the group of death.
That definitely wasn't the first time.
That was the first time I heard it. So I imagine it was floating around before that.
I would think so. This group is so unbelievable. We need a name for it, said no one. Oh, it's
Group of Death was Hugh McIlvenny, I think, came up with that for the worst group of the four, so probably shouldn't pick that one for the GAA this time around.
I know Euro 88, Ireland, England, Soviet Union, Netherlands is pretty strong.
That's group of death.
I'm going to go, maybe that was the first time, but I don't recall what my point was. But yeah, no, sorry, yeah, you were saying that the quality football might make the format less, I suppose, of a slog.
We're less reliant on the format.
Yeah.
We now can rely a little bit on the fact that that'll be a fun game to watch. I haven't seen a bad game yet, really.
No, but if you're looking at terrestrial TV, you've barely seen a game. I'm not trying to be flippant about it, but that's the
what's been on. Yeah, sorry,
I think there was one Connacht. The match in Connacht was on. I think was a
Scum and Galway.
Yeah,
that was a bad game.
That was on, and that can happen, obviously. But that was the point I was making about the Tyrone game and those games that people haven't seen. People haven't seen football championship games. The general, I would say, the general public. I'm not sure of the uptake on GAA Plus, but the general public on TV, which is where a lot of the time the game will grow from, because I think people will, they might not sit down and watch the entire game, but if they're doing something around the house, like you were saying, the final frame snooker, geez, this looks a great game. It's on in the background. I'm going to sit down and watch the last 20-25 minutes.
They run like Will ran around the office earlier. I suppose you're right. If a lot of us had the experience of Cork Tipperary, the red card has ruined it, and then word comes through, Dublin Meath is happening. So you're not, I think, in minute 50 in that game going to pay €12 or whatever it is on GAA Plus for that one game. So yeah, you can't flick over. I'm watching it on GAA Plus, so I feel like I'm really seeing the football championship. But I do take your point. I don't know what the uptake in numbers is, but it's certainly not what it would be.
Well, just on the product, like I watched Dublin Meath on GAA Plus, and the rules made such a marked difference on the game. Like it was really exciting, but it's only now that I'm looking back on it how much of a different game it was in terms of what the contest it created, the 2-point scores Meath kicked in the first half, what a bearing it had on it, the kickouts. Yeah, geez, like as you guys talked about during the week, Cluxon's kick out. It was so different to what a Dublin Meath game would have been under the old rules.
Yeah, and at Croke Park as well.
Yeah,
so it was brilliant. Okay, so that's GAA. I was about to say the moment of the week. The moment of the year, as the DAZN commentary team called it. Or maybe it was Sky, apologies. What was it?
DAZN.
Was it DAZN? Okay, so all week there was a sadness, like a very sincere sadness about Eubank Senior and Eubank Junior and him calling his son a disgrace. And obviously I'm not going to be in his corner. And then on social media, I suspect that a lot of people saw it, there's just a kind of a Rolls Royce type door, and it's one of those ones that it opens reverse. And I mean, there he is in a sheepskin and the teeth and smiles.
Meanwhile, have a look at this. He's here, and the crowd are going wild. Father and son reunited.
And Chris Jr. walks around in shot as well.
and side by side, the awesome foursome are together.
Wow, it's like that is goosebumps. That's like something out of WWE. The reaction there was incredible.
I can't believe it. And
Oh, come on.
That's not hyperbolic either, what he's saying. That is honestly one of the greatest sporting moments of all time.
It's close to hyperbolic.
It's not. That is one of the greatest TV moments as well as sporting moments.
It was phenomenal TV.
That is a where were you moment. When you saw Chris Eubank emerge from the car in a sheepskin coat, I thought that was absolutely unbelievable, and those commentators did it justice.
Yeah, I was sitting on my couch, as usual.
I actually didn't see it live, so I don't know where I was when it happened. So do we think they were always going to appear together?
This is the question.
I don't want to ruin it. But
Because we, on Fridays, Bits and Bobs, with Conor McKeown and Ronan Mullen, talked with real kind of empathy and sensitivity about these two. You know what I mean? Like, this really sad situation, and Chris Senior's, his health increasingly people aren't sure about, and so really delicate. And then Conor McKeown did text over the weekend and just said, "We've been had," and I felt very foolish initially. Initially I got sucked into it, but then I thought, what have we been talking about? It depends who you listen to what extent it was all staged. Senior himself talked about how the subconscious mind knew he was always going to go. Because he was, my subconsciously I was always going to go, but my conscious mind less sure. Look, definitely there's real acrimony. Definitely Junior has cut him out of his entourage. Definitely they haven't spoken in some time. Where I first got a bit suspicious was when Eddie Hearn was interviewed on BBC, and he was asked could he do impressions, because Al Fornan had been over there doing impressions and stuff, so it had been a bit of a social theme for the day. And Eddie said, "Oh, the only impression I can do is of Senior." And in his impression, he started talking about how I really hope I'm there tonight, and it's important I'm there tonight. And that was when I got just a first, have they laid out the drama here that he's even sowing that seed? Will he, won't he show up? But I don't know. We possibly were had a little bit.
it was so good and so well executed that it's irrelevant whether we were had, because it was such a television extravaganza.
Well, the crowd, I mean,
crowd
when
don't
they
lie.
showed it on the big screen, what do you think? Was the whole thing...
I mean, it's Steve Bunce who's saying, I'm not sure the co-comment is there talking about the WWE style.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not quite the compliment that he seems to sort of portray it as in that. Like, I mean, watching it back in the day, and you're sort of like, here's the Undertaker coming out of the coffin, and here's the, here's Hulk
Jim
Hogan.
Ross.
Here's
That's
Hulk
Chris
Hogan.
Eubank's music.
Yeah. It was only short of the music actually playing. Like Chris Eubank used to come out to Simply the Best from Tina Turner when he was boxing. It was only short of kind of having. I'm not sure what Junior's walk-on music
But
was,
they
but
used Simply
if
the Best
they
then
came
and
out-
they walked
Oh,
it
yeah.
together. It
did
was-
they?
that
That's what it's from. So it was only short of actually
No.
pressing the button and playing
did
that. So
They leaned into it.
yeah,
It was-
they did. I mean,
But
that's,
sorry, boxing down the decades is about entertainment and about
absolutely, yeah,
selling.
yeah.
Is whether we were completely had, and I don't think we were completely had. There is a real issue there, I think, between the two of them. But they executed. To use your rugby word.
I'm not
a
sure what the
willing
time
fool.
frame.
If that was me being had, I'm glad to be had.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the time frame on it was. How close was it when he arrived, or was it when? Because if it was when he arrived, it's the sort of thing you'd say, well, actually, they might sell a few more pay-per-views based out of this. If you're really going down the cynical route. I'm not sure. I don't know what the time frame on it was.
Yeah, I think it was an hour before the fight. It was just as he arrived. So they arrived together, basically. We don't know how late in the day Chris Jr. knew about this. Did he know a week before?
Very disruptive.
he
It
must
was
have
the day
done.
before.
He must
All
have
of a
done.
sudden, your preparation is like, you're having some sort of emotional father-son reunion. I'm about to fight, Conor Ben. Like, so
Yeah.
I'd love to know that. I'm sure
when?
there'll be some.
Yeah. Oh, look. Yeah, I'm in two minds about it. If we hadn't done it, I regret on Friday being like, listen, guys, bit of sensitivity here in this situation, father and a son here.
I had a lump in my throat when he appeared in the sheepskin coat. When the door opened, I had a lump in my throat.
The other thing about this is, against all expectations and like a much maligned contest for various reasons, it was a great fight. It was, proper scrap, final round. Like, they're both in slow motion throwing punches. It was that kind of a night. There was a bravery to both fighters. So Like, it wasn't the farce maybe that we signposted on Friday, you'd have to kind of say.
And nice scenes between the fighters and the fathers, I thought, afterwards as well. Like, there was a respect there.
Yeah. We're going to do peace tomorrow, by the way, on weight cutting, because that was obviously an aspect to Eubank Jr. But, yeah, the picture of the year.
Decade.
Anything else going on? Oh, Champions League last night. Arsenal 0, PSG 1. I know you guys all watched this. Amazon Prime zoomed in on Declan Rice pre-game in the huddle, and he was very lip-readable. And his prophetic last words to the team were, "If we don't have the ball, we die." It's very Rocky IV. And I guess they were prophetic words, because the first half hour, PSG 72% possession, 165 passes to Arsenal 60. And the goal itself was like a culmination of a 26 pass move. Arsenal had the press on. PSG were just too good. They definitely missed Thomas Partey. That was borne out by the goal, because Dembele is sort of on halfway in a 20 by 20 box. Marino is the closest to him, but is not close to him. And Dembele carries it forward in all the space, gives it to Kvaratskhelia, who's in a 1v1 with Timber, and Declan Rice, presumably under instructions, and just it's Kvaratskhelia. He runs over to help Timber, so it's not a 1v1, because that's just how good Kvaratskhelia is. And then the quality of Kvaratskhelia, he plays it straight away back to Dembele. He scores. It's 1-0. I've missed the Aston Villa PSG performance, so I've only really seen them against Liverpool, bit against City last night. I do think they're the best team in the competition, but a lot of people are pointing towards Barcelona as well. I guess Arsenal aren't out of it, but that was a very impressive PSG performance last night.
Yeah, PSG have now, they've had a couple of times in Europe over the years, and this team is different, where they've kind of had blow-ups after great first legs. We don't need to go through them now. Even they lost at home to Liverpool, very recently. Villa, beat them at Villa Park, and almost took them to extra time there. So I don't think it's over. But
no, anytime I catch them, they're good. But I'm having a blind spot with them.
And you can't help but look at the two chances they missed at the end last night and think, that could have really killed the tie off. Yeah. Like Bradley Barcola putting that one wide, Ramos hitting the crossbar.
With a bog toe.
Yeah. Haven't seen one of those in a while.
Such a bog toe.
Crossbar.
Huh?
A bog toe.
Toe bog.
A bog toe.
Bull toe.
Toe bog for me.
No, it's bog toe in Kildare.
This is going viral now. This is
What did you call that? Bull toe?
Bull toe, yeah. No? Bog toe. Never heard bog toe. Ever.
Never?
Toe bog.
No.
No, bog toe. He bog-toed it.
Okay, this is either going viral or getting caught under the other.
So yeah, what did he call it on the commentary? I can't remember, but he called it something different as well.
Who did?
Toe poke?
Shearer. No, it wasn't toe poke.
Sorry, toe. That's not a toe poke.
No, a toe poke is like a softer one. This had a lot of power.
No, it was a bog toe.
Yeah.
It was such an odd. He was almost like
an odd choice.
There's nothing on here. Catch him by surprise. Dunk. Nearly worked.
Did yeah.
Barcola, yeah, that was a big chance.
Yeah, but both of them.
Now Trossard had a chance. Like, they weren't. Arsenal, in fairness, like after the first half hour, they got their bearings a little bit, and they had 55% possession to kind of continue Declan Rice's theme for the rest of the game. Trossard had a decent chance, and then there was the Marino header, which was offside.
Martinelli had a chance at the end of the first half as well, which he should have done better with. Trossard's one was a very good save.
It was.
The Martinelli one is. Like, I just look at Martinelli and just sort of think I tweeted it last night, he's a great player to score the third goal in a 3-0 win, but less so when you're 1-0 down. That'd be the way I'd look at him in terms of that.
I saw that tweet.
But that's just like, you look at, they've certain players, Arsenal, where you're like, yeah, they could really get in any team around the place. And then you look at some other ones and it's just like...
No, I did think...
There's a huge gap.
If Trossard and Martinelli are 2/3 of your front three, it doesn't scream Champions League winning.
No, or like there could be impact players. Certainly, Trossard seems to be a very good player off the bench.
Yeah,
but less so when he starts. And there was so much of that with Arsenal last night, where even when they were taking free kicks, like they had free kicks in their own half, where Timber would stand over it, and then he'd sort of walk away, and then maybe Saliba would stand over it, and then he'd walk away, and then Raya would walk up to it, and sort of Jordan Pickford launched the thing. Now it was just and there was some criticism of the Arsenal fans I saw as well. But if Arsenal are taking a minute over every free kick that's in their own half, you're not going to get an atmosphere going, really. And then the ball was breaking with PSG. They were popping the ball around the place. It was a decent game. It was
open. It was lively.
Yeah.
But PSG, like, you take Dembele, you take Doué. He's proper. Kvaratskhelia, they're just better. They're just better. It's the brutal truth. But Declan Rice, by the way, at the moment, every time I see him, is just a powerhouse. Really phenomenal. Like, they still have a chance at 1-0. Thomas Partey comes back, releases Rice a little bit. Odegaard gets more into the game. They still have a chance, but PSG do look the more likely. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, just on the atmosphere. I was so surprised how that the Belly goal, like, you would have thought the atmosphere Emirates haven't had a Champions League semi-final since 2009. The atmosphere was dead. Like, I saw Wayne Rooney commenting on it, saying like the players were poor, but the fans had to do a lot better. And then, like, not that necessarily would have made them win the game or draw the game, but it just, as someone watching the match, I was very surprised at how low energy the crowd was.
But I'd say 5 or 6 times the Arsenal players were, trying to G the crowd.
Yeah,
like
a few
at
times.
one stage, I think it must have been the first half, and Martinelli had a shot that was blocked, possibly by Marquinhos. And both Marquinhos, because it was at the PSG end, Marquinhos was turning to the PSG fans trying to G them up, and Martinelli at the same time was turning around to the Arsenal fans trying to G these. I've never seen it before where you have players off each team trying to G both sets of supporters up at the same time. It was kind of strange in that way, but even Raya at half time was kind of turning to the crowd, kind of, can you get behind us kind of way. I find that quite odd in terms of even something that comes into your head as a player. Obviously, I've never played in front of that amount of a crowd, but again, it's not something you necessarily see in other sports or whatever. Like, you won't
Gary
see.
Breen commented on it.
Yes, he did. Yeah, give them something to
do it on the pitch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Spare me the bullshit. Is basically what he's saying. Did I hear you chatting to Shane bemoaning the PSG din?
Give it a rest. Give me 1 minute. It sounds like a Vuvuzuela when you're just chanting and singing, no matter what. I said, no, contextless chanting is lazy. It's not. It doesn't do anything for me. I'm not impressed.
Sorry, I didn't notice. So what? It's just like a
LA, basically, and it's not just PSG. We had a conversation about like just general chanting the whole time. I'm just like, shut up until there's something worth chanting about.
Really?
The rhythm of the crowd, like, big moments get a bigger reaction than small moments. That's what I preferred, rather than having this constant din the whole time.
Okay, I didn't really notice it that much.
No, not something.
I'm too into the football. I'm a purist. I noticed they had a big sign saying ultras. That's a little,
PSG ultras.
just like, we're the ultras. It was a little bit too branded, I thought. Like,
you have to call yourself an ultra.
I just thought like, we're ultras, but it was massive. It was just like ultras. I don't know. Was there anything else from that game? Oh, by the way, the Marino offside, given like all their set piece wonder and stuff, so they all go over to the back post and then they ran. You should never be offside there. That was unforgivable. Like, for all their set piece, they're amazing.
The coach is getting so much camera time as well. The set piece coach.
That's like shocking. Like, rule number 1 in offside is, well, if you're looking across the line, you have no excuse. And Declan Rice can time the thing. That was shoddy.
That was brutal. Yeah, there's no way. Like, you can bemoan the fact that it was, it took the semi-automated offside or whatever it took. It was tight, but it's still offside. You've no business being offside. You should be, especially in Marino. It was a free header. Had he been a foot onside, it still would have been a free header. He had so much time to go and win that, but there was no benefit whatsoever to being in the position he was in.
Because it's really interesting. They're trying something new and they'll be harder to mark. I get it, but like, rule number 1. So this guy told Declan Rice not to shoot, and now they can't even stay on side for a free. Is all I'm saying. I'm asking the question.
I thought I was pushing him back to the bench at the end last night. I was wondering what
was he?
Yeah, it was after the last free kick.
I think that will get on Arteta's week a little bit. Just, like camera 1, zoom in. Okay. I think we're pretty much done. Anything rugby wise? So we're talking to Rory O'Connor, Keane Tracy. You did it at left wing. I did see somebody walking by saying, "Are you going to the Leinster match?" And you said, "No, it's a formality."
I am going on holidays, but I wouldn't have gone anyway.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Route to the final again should they win.
Yeah, it's funny because they played Toulouse 2 semi-finals in a row, then Northampton 2 semi-finals in a row.
Yeah,
they played La Rochelle a lot, and they played Leicester a lot in the knockout. Like, it's funny, these brackets have shown up fairly predetermined games that Leinster have had in years gone by. They've only apparently sold 30,000 tickets. I'm sure Rudd will talk to you about this, which the EPCR do take control of it, so it's not like Leinster trying to price the tickets, but it's still a very low, considering they had 82,000 at Leinster Northampton last year in Croker.
And it was a close game last year.
It was a close game, 3 points in it.
So that's a 50,000 drop off.
If it stays like that.
Is there any degree of like Leinster beating every team 50-0 at the moment is like damaging the intrigue for people?
Yeah, probably. And
Maybe bank holiday weekend.
There's also a sense it's a bank holiday weekend and that the tickets are priced, like EPCR have priced them maybe more expensively than they would have been priced for a quarter or a last 16 game.
Because remember, Leo Cullen last year was saying, don't rip people off. Because it was a thing.
It makes no sense to have 55,000 at a last 16 game against Quins and Croke Park and then 30,000, or if they have 35 by kickoff against Northampton, because they're both bank holiday weekends. So
okay, it might be prices.
Yeah.
Okay. Rory O'Connor, Keane Tracy, and your feed talking rugby very shortly. Will, thanks a million.
Joe.
Aidan O'Hara, thanks for popping in.
Thanks very much, Joe.
Enjoy the snooker over the weekend. Appreciate it.